Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, my friend, they wrote between 90 to 110 years after Jesus. Paul wrote between 50 and 60 years after Jesus. So now, in order for them to have been disciples when they wrote, and Jesus was already 33 at that time, they would have had to have been 123 or 143. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were not disciples. Secondly, I ask you, Matthew who? Mark who? Luke who? John who? How could four people that wrote separately, all of them forgot to write their last names? The third thing, not only did they forget to write their last names, but they began their chapters. Although they wrote separately from each other, they all started out the same. They all said, according to, according to, according to, according to. Now, what's your name, sir? Huh? Another Paul. Paul. If you wrote me a letter or wrote your wife a letter, would you write according to Paul? No, you wouldn't. You would write your name at the end. And if you were asking for a debt that I owed you, you would write your last name and your address. The gospel writers, the alleged gospel writers, they didn't write a name. They didn't write an address, they didn't write a reference, and in the beginning of each one of their gospels, they said, according to, according to, according to, according to. No one knows who these people are who wrote those four gospels. They absolutely were not disciples. When we talk about prophets, there's not an issue of equality here. They all been sent by God with a message and with signs of prophecy. And God doesn't love one more than the other. And we don't say we love one more than the other. They're all prophets, brothers of prophecy from Almighty God. We love all of them, and we make no distinction except by saying one was the first prophet and the first man. The other, Muhammad, was the last prophet. That's the distinction we make of them. Jesus' distinction was that he was born without a father. Second thing, Jesus' distinction was that he spoke in the cradle. And Jesus' also distinction is that he was lifted up by God, and another distinction is that he will return before the end of the world. Now, those distinctions doesn't make Jesus better than another prophet. I'm talking to my friend there that just gave me the... So here, I want you to understand that if the basis of Jesus being born without a father makes him sort of like special in your eyesight, then what about Adam and what about Eve? They double special. I think, my friend and Christians that are here, no need for anybody to think that you gotta ring your bell about Jesus, because we got all the bells. We love Jesus, we think, more than you, because we believe that we understand the real Jesus, the historical Jesus that makes our love genuine and direct. Here we're saying we want to share all the love. We just want to make sure that the letter goes the right place. We want to make sure that the Jesus that we're loving, that we're following, that we're making reference to is the real historical Jesus. This is the issue. We're not trying to denigrate Jesus Christ. We're not trying to denigrate the church. We're not trying to embarrass, compete, or denigrate Christians or Christianity. No, we're trying to uncover all the rocks and see what's underneath them. Now, in all fairness, if evidence that I brought to you about the historical Jesus, if the idea of the historical Jesus is repugnant to you, anyone, if you think I don't have a right to talk, search, find, identify the historical Jesus, if you find some problem with that, you need to tell me. At the same token, I find a problem with someone manufacturing lies and fabrications and dramatizations and mythologies with Jesus Christ, especially when Jesus Christ himself had nothing to do with the evidence that they use. Now let's keep it on point, because that's the issue. There's no tug of war here. There's no issue here of arguing, trying to cast aspersion upon Jesus or Christianity. Because Jesus, for us, was a Muslim. Because Muslim means one that submits to God. Because Abraham was a Muslim, because he submitted to God. And Moses was a Muslim. And David and Solomon were Muslims. And all the prophets of God were Muslims, because Muslims doesn't mean Arabs. It means those that submit themselves to the law, the legislation, the inspiration, and the revelation from Almighty God. So if Jesus is a Muslim, we on his side.